And Jody, you weren't with us last time, were you? In person?
Yeah, I was at the end of
Oh,
the table right across from you.
oh, at the end of the table. Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
It's been a busy few weeks of working with people.
It has.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. I was going to do a little something special in introductions to bring you in if you hadn't been here, but I think everyone everyone I see was with us last time. So, good morning, and I think we can go ahead and get the session started. And we'll just start with what is it that we're doing here today? So it's English Language Arts and Literacy Content Standards. You are the Negotiated Rulemaking Committee, as confirmed, our session together. So we're in session 4, which is January 30th. My grandmother's 95th birthday today. And she still knows who I am and takes her little walks. And so that's a happy way to start the day. Okay, you want to just go ahead and move our screens there? So let's go ahead and get the introductions and our welcomes right away. I do want to let you know that you remember that the first day that we convened last month or at the beginning of the month, we had a new superintendent being oriented into her position. And so we didn't have a chance to meet her, nor did she have any opportunity to, see who is going to be on this committee. And so there is a person who is not actually in the attendance today, and her name is McCall. What's McCall's last name? Can you remind
I'm
me?
here. Oh,
Oh, McCall Flynn. There you are, McCall.
sorry, I
And
didn't realize my camera was messed up.
okay, very good. So, anyway, the superintendent has invited McCall to be a part of the negotiated rulemaking committee. And so, we're going to introduce this team, and then we'll do a real quick, we need just to confirm the committee with the addition of McCall on there before we start any rulemaking discussion. So, McCall, let's just start with you with introductions, and then we'll go around and everyone else can introduce themselves. And in the end, we'll just have the folks who are here from OPI that are in service to this group introduce themselves so that we know who is here helping us. Good morning, Justine. Okay, McCall, if you just introduce yourself and your relationship to the ELA, the English Language Arts and Literacy Content Standards, how you feel about being asked to be a part of the negotiated rulemaking committee, and how you feel about being here today. And when you're done, these folks that are going to introduce themselves will introduce to you so that you know who they are and how they ended up on the negotiated rulemaking committee, how they feel about the work they've done so far, and what their hopes are for our continued work together. So we'll start with you, and then we'll pop over to Erin.
Okay, I am McCall Flynn. I'm the Executive Director at the Board of Public Education. This is not my first negotiated rulemaking committee, so I'm very well-versed in how all of this works. In fact, once you do all of your work, it will come to me, and then we will begin our work at the Board of Public Ed. I'm so very, very familiar with the interrelatedness of negotiated rulemaking, Office of Public Instruction. In fact, I know many of the folks on this on the screen today, and just want to say thank you. And I also realize that this is probably going to cause a little bit more delay of start of getting going today. So that was certainly not my intention, but I appreciate the opportunity to hear from each of you. Thanks.
Hey, Erin, and then Janelle.
My name is Erin Ellis. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Assessment in Missoula at Hellgate Elementary. And I'm excited to be on the committee. I really enjoyed our time together in Helena, and it's my first time being on a committee like this. So I'm just excited for the conversation and the dialogue that we're going to have around the standards.
Thanks, Janelle, and then Clifton, and then Justine.
Good morning. Hi, McCall. Nice to see you again. We worked together on the Chapter 55, so that was a good experience. And I'm on the committee representing Montana Small Schools Alliance, and just how this all impact our smaller rural frontier schools. And their multi-grade small classrooms. So I think we did a lot of good work last time, and I hope it's as productive when we're all Zoom, because I know sometimes it's a little harder, but looking forward to the next couple days. Thank you.
So Clifton, Justine, and then Jody.
Hello, McCall, and everyone else. I welcome back. I'm excited to be here too. As I enjoyed our last sessions. I'm the parent embedded in the group, and I'm excited to share my perspective and be a part of the process. So thank you.
Good morning. I'm Justine Alberts, Curriculum Director for Helena Public Schools. This is my second time. I was also on the assessment negotiated rulemaking. So welcome to our fun group, McCall. We had a lot of good conversations the last go around, and just a really robust and informed group of people. So I look forward to the work today.
Hi, I'm Jody Carlson. I am the Director of Education at Rocky Mountain College. I spent 25 years teaching our young ones. So first grade teacher was the greater part of my career. And then I also, my last stint was at a bilingual school teaching reading. And so super excited to be part of this in order to help the teachers that we're preparing be ready for the classroom.
Thank you. And then I see JC and Tawny.
I'm JC Jeffers. I'm with Billings Public Schools. I've been in education for 25 years. I taught social studies before. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction. I've been in Indian education for 10 years. I work at the Office of Indian Education in Billings now. I guess we're Indigenous education now. And I work with 612 educators implementing Indian education for all in their classroom. And I'm super happy to be here. I'm in Virginia right now in Norfolk, working with AI integration and blended learning with the NEA. So I'm double booked today, but we're at lunch, so I'm happy to be here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tawny Kale. I am the IFA instructional coach for the elementary in Great Falls Public Schools. This is my first time being in a committee of something like this, and so it's been very exciting to be a part of and learn what we're doing along the way.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have two more committee people, Marie and Christy. Is Christy online here?
Barbara
Okay,
and
there you are.
Nicole.
And
You- yeah.
I need to spread my
Yeah. Oh,
faces
good.
out a little bit more here.
Good morning, everyone. Marie Judish. I know everyone now, and it's been a few weeks since we've seen one another. Again, my role is the Senior Manager of Teaching and Learning, which gets to oversee the K-12 content standards work and then statewide assessment and literacy grant. So happy to see these faces again on the screen.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Mockstutz. I'm the Assistant Chief Program Officer here at the OPI, and I'm just glad to see you all this morning, and echoing what you all have said. I'm really looking forward to the work. The group has just worked so well together, a lot of great discussion, and I'm just looking forward to more.
Thank you. Barbara, Nicole, and Crystal.
Hi, I'm Barbara Frank. I'm a director for Missoula County Public Schools. Obviously I know you, McCall, because I get to work with charter schools, so I've gotten to know McCall well over the last year. This has been a really great experience. This is such a knowledgeable and high quality group of people to work with. It's just been enjoyable, and I've been looking forward to getting back together and moving through the rest of the standards. So happy to be here.
Good morning, I'm Nicole Simonson. I was a first grade teacher for 10 years, then went to the middle school and taught ELA for 2 years before entering administration. Now I'm the superintendent in Culbertson for our K-12 district, and I'm just excited to be a voice on the east side with this awesome team.
Hi, I'm Crystal Kane. I currently work in Polson School District as the Innovation Coordinator. I've taught English in lots of different districts around the state at different sizes. And I'll just echo what everybody else said, that I've been learning a lot from all of you, and I feel like we have a pretty solid and knowledgeable team.
Thank you. Is there anyone yet from the NRC I have not called? Okay, so let's move into the support staff for OPI so you know who they are and why they're on the Zoom with us today. Let's see, let's start with Amy, Claire, and then Julie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Conzen. I'm the Professional Learning Manager for the Office of Public Instruction, and I will be sharing my screen for you today. Happy that you're all here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Mikeson. I am the English Language Arts Instructional Coordinator at OPI. And like Amy, I'm here to facilitate and I'll be taking notes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Mergel. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Montana Office of Public Instruction. I've been able to kind of just jump in and see your work over the last couple of weeks that you did, and we'll continue to, I get to support the OPI team in this work and just ensure that when we get to the final end, that this gets to our teachers and our students and our families, and that this product is a good one. And so I'm just thankful for the team at the OPI. I just have to shout them out while I get a moment, because I'm sure you have experienced in the last few sessions with them in this committee, the high quality work that they do and the passion that they bring and care for learning and for students. So it's good to see each of you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance to introduce themselves? Okay, 100%. Okay, let's look at the session purpose. So we are here because it's the law. The Montana Office of Public Instruction, OPI, is charged with establishing an independent negotiated rulemaking committee, the NRC, that's you. The NRC will consider issues to reach consensus on the proposed amendments to Chapter 53. So we're working in English language arts and literacy content standards. And then you'll consult on the preparation of that, excuse me, economic impact statement. And I did see in the email that some samples of that and the survey questions were sent out to you for review for, I think it was the math content standards was the example. So the negotiated rulemaking process, it's required by Montana Code Annotated. So let's move to the next screen. I do want to just real quickly, it'll be fun to show where McCall fits into this on the other side of it when we look at that graph too. So we use a consensus based model, and this was sort of the first thing we talked about, is if there was any dissent to using this particular model. And as we talked about, we're coming to consensus on each part of a package, but we won't be 100% complete, meaning we can still go back and make adjustments if we find that in 7th grade it affects something in 3rd grade that you've already done. We can go back to those, even though we have a consensus on it. It isn't until the entire package has consensus at the very end that it will then be closed. So when we're going through each one, I always ask the question, is there any disagreement with the way this is currently written? So that is my way of asking you for dissent. And then when you dissent, then it is your job to provide information and a valid solution or a proposal so that this group has an opportunity to come to consensus around that. It's sort of a higher level because you all come in with particular areas and opinions and views on things. And so it is sort of a higher level to be able to listen and learn from the committee and land on a proposal that'll meet the needs that you're hearing from each other. So if this consensus is reached on rule, so once we come to consensus for the whole package, those of you who are on the NRC and the individuals that you represent can no longer oppose the rules. So it's really important that we have the conversations that we need to have now. That way, as they move through to the Board of Public Education, you've had the conversations you need to, and they are getting the best package to move ahead with. Okay. We will have public comment. I'll be checking for that. I'll make sure that, I'm not sure, did we start out with any emails or anything, Claire or Amy?
I don't have any.
You don't have any yet, but we will check at the end of the day. And if people join us online, we'll make sure there's an opportunity. And, that's one of the things that I strongly believe in, that the public has an opportunity to have their say and participate, which you are the participants. And we will also have public comment for those who might not necessarily hear all the conversations. Okay. So we do have a couple of things to take care of. Oh, go ahead. And I'm going to let you talk about this, Amy or Claire.
That's okay. I just wanted to remind everybody that there is this link for the critical resources. Claire, if you'll drop it in, and it's just the same as last time, but it's just that one pager that's turned into 2 pages, but it has every link that you should need. If there's something missing that you wish was on there, please let us know, because we'd like to keep it in a nice little package for you. So everybody's going to the same place and getting the information from the same place.
And McCall, since you have been here before, and I know you have these, unless you make a special request, I'm just going to leave that with you, knowing that you understand these documents. Okay. Okay, so our first task is to reconfirm the committee. It's the same committee you confirmed last time, with the exception of adding McCall to the roll call and to the committee. So is there any disagreement with McCall participating as an NRC member to add to the already confirmed members? Okay, that's wonderful. So I see no dissent, and we're going to do our first responsibility, I believe, is to approve those meeting minutes that were sent out to you. So very quickly, I'm going to ask if there was any dissent to those meeting minutes. And if not, we're going to note those as approved. Okay, though we're looking good there. So I think it's time to get to work here. Do we want to show that graph though one more time? I think Amy's pulling it up. I saw a little head nod.
I'll pull up the graph.
Yeah, that'll be great. So this is the graph we looked at that shows how the contents are, first of all, they end up with this a team, a task force, and you had a chance to see who was on that committee in orientation and learn about some of the details around that and the insights that they had as they handed that package off to you. So we know that there was a number of specialists on that team. And then it reaches you. So your job is to look at what they recommended. So it went to then the superintendent, and then that passed to you. Here's the recommendations moving forward. And so you're having a chance to review those and make modifications to those or change those in some way. And then that goes back to the superintendent. So I assume this will be her first round then to look at for content standard reviews. So that's sort of exciting that it will be your work. And then after this goes to the Board of Public Education, right? Yeah. So these land in the lap of the Board of Public Education. Then it goes through the MAPPA process, and there will be more public hearing and written comments, and then the responses, and then final action to that. So the last one that was just completed, I think, was math. So thanks for that part, doing that part of getting that moved through. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. And we were looking at 7th grade, and I know we made it partway through those, but we're just going to start at the top again so you can reground yourself in that work. And Tawny, you're on board because you have something that you want to bring up to this committee. And so I think that's probably the first important conversation. And so we'll pull this up here, but I'm going to leave the floor open to you to, begin that discussion.
Thank you. Good morning. So if you had a chance to read the email, which I assume can be attached into some sort of notes or something, but I can just kind of summarize what I was talking about earlier. Once I got back home and I was reading through what the wording that we had come up with, and then I was comparing it to some of the wording that we use as our here in Great Falls in our district. If we specifically use the term Montana Indigenous peoples, then there are certain lessons that are not going to be able to fit into that with the EFA considerations. And so like the examples that I used in my email was like, especially like during Thanksgiving, that seems to be a pretty popular time when people are thinking about EFA implementation and they learn about the Wampanoag people. Well, those lessons, if you're going to try to have that EFA part of it, it's not going to be in alignment with the standards because the Wampanoag are not a Montana tribe. So I just think that that's something that we need to consider moving forward with how we're wording this. In the previous standard, it says American Indian people. And so I don't know if that's something we'd like to consider or something that can be up for discussion. And if not now, maybe when we get to the end of it and kind of the end of things and going back and looking at the package as a whole. So.
Okay, so this is just open for discussion from the committee here. You can actually raise your real hand or you can raise your Marie.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give some context, not that I have a preference one way or the other. So the way that that language got brought in was during the math negotiated rulemaking committee time. And the negotiated rulemaking committee had the similar language from what was before in the English language arts. And they decided, I'd have to look specifically at the notes and recordings, that with guidance from our EFA and SAR team, that Montana Indigenous peoples was a more respectful, I'm not saying it is or isn't, this is just what was said, language to use within the standards. And that's where that language came from. And then the decision to carry it through into English language arts was so that we had a consistency amongst all the different standard sets. So I know that the Board of Public Ed officially adopted the math standards a couple weeks ago. Last week, I don't know what today is. And so those are officially adopted into rule with the Montana Indigenous peoples, just for context of where that came from in the transition.
JC? You're gotta, yeah.
Yep. Just to add a little context to that too. And I understand where you're coming from and your perspective is totally valid. And I, when I was with that group, when we were making that decision from the math perspective, and that was, with the Office of OPI and Indian Education for All, that office, and the agreed upon language. And there was a lot of us, and we wanted to kind of move away from the term American Indian. And I just want to kind of talk about a couple of the things. So I don't think that using American Indian limits our scope and options because Montana tribes are truly our first priority. Montana students are required to learn about the tribes and recognize in the state first. This is clearly outlined in the essential understandings regarding Montana Indians, which leads to the second point regarding grammar. While English grammar is often emphasized in academic settings, it's not a primary concern for many Indigenous people because English is not our original language. That said, the essential understandings intentionally does not use the phrase Montana's Indians as possessive. That decision in 2006 was deliberate as well when we wrote those. Because Montana does not own these peoples. While Montana's Indians may be grammatically correct, it's not the appropriate phrasing. We work closely with both Indigenous and non-Indigenous college professors to determine Montana Indigenous peoples as the preferred term. Professors assured us that both are grammatically correct. While the possessive may be preferred, it is not appropriate in this context. So that kind of addresses the grammar question. While American Indian appears in the state constitution, and Dr. Winnie Boy's proposed law, this term is highly contested and is not universally accepted in Indigenous communities, nor is Native American. And I'm surprised that the law does not use Native American studies, as NCAA's accreditation requires the term Native American studies for their coursework. However, I assume the language in the law aligns with the state constitution and that districts will need to plan accordingly with NCAA accreditation. This is with the new law that's coming out and it's on the floor right now if you're interested in any of that. Montana Indigenous peoples, we actually use that from an article and we brought in Dr. Pee Wee Wardy as well. And there's an article, and I can share this with you guys as well. It's called Renaming Ourselves in Our Own Terms, Race of Tribal Nations. And it has some really good methodology from a lot of Indigenous people, both First Nations and North American Indigenous peoples, tribal representatives all throughout the United States, on why a lot of people don't prefer the word Indian anymore. And why Native American is, kind of falling out of context. And so why Indigenous peoples is becoming the more preferred term. And there's a very strong movement right now to change Indian education for all to Indigenous education for all. Our department uses Indigenous education. Great Falls Public Schools also uses Indigenous education. And the law will probably change to Indigenous education for all. The only reason why it's not changing right now, from my understanding, from what Mike and Chris and Julie have told me, is that that's the people that at the Office of Indian Education at OPI, is that with the lawsuit right now, they just want to focus on the lawsuit, get the lawsuit settled, then they can focus on changing the name. And so we worked really hard on the name with math. And so we wanted to carry that name into ELA. We don't have to keep that. I'm not saying that. I understand where you're coming from, but that was the idea because we wanted to leave that name behind. And we no longer wanted to have that. We don't want to say Montana's, because Montana doesn't own Indigenous people. So that's really the rationale. I'm happy to share that article with folks. And that's just where a lot of this is coming from. And so it did start with math. And the idea was that that would carry over into the rewriting of all of those. And the wording does come from the essential understandings of Montana Indian people. So that's a lot of the history behind it.
So I think one of Tawny's, you mentioned your major concern was something interfering with it being allowed. you particularly said around Thanksgiving, so I don't want to lose that piece of it. Is it true that there might be a limit? So more discussion from the committee?
Yeah, Tanya, I think I was kind of thinking that same question, and kind of listening to what you're saying and for that curriculum piece. And I feel like that within the standard, that curriculum piece wouldn't be disallowed in some way. It's just that there may, because I feel like that would be encompassed in this. So it's not disallowed. It just would be that if there's the particular call out to Montana Indigenous people, that there just may need to be more of an inclusion of something, but I don't feel like that would be disallowed under the standard. I think it would still support the standard, that particular instance. And so I guess that would be my response back. I think I wouldn't worry about it being disallowed. It feels like it would still encompass the essence of that standard for the whole part of the standard, if that makes sense.
Any other discussion? Okay, Tanya.
Chrissy, that's a really good point. And going back to that, we do have to remember that Montana tribes are our first priority. And so one of the things that we do is always try to, even if we are studying the Wampanoag, we do try to bring it back to Montana tribes, right? So Montana tribes first, and then, right, so if we're studying Thanksgiving, you're going to bring it back to Montana tribes. So we're always going to, Montana tribes are first and foremost. So that really is our priority always in the classroom. So it is Montana tribes first.
Okay, Tawny, I'm going to just check this out and see if there's any dissent in keeping the language the same. And if there is dissent, we need a proposal that, even if it's not changing those wordings, somehow mitigates if there still continues to be concern about a risk of it limiting. So is there any dissent to how the wording is now Montana Indigenous peoples? Okay, good discussion, folks. I just appreciate seeing the care for which you think about these things. And so, okay, let's take a look now. We're looking at 7th grade. And we're going to start from the beginning. I know you have some blue in there. So if you would look through that section in its entirety and just review the work that you did in 1, 2, and 3, all the blue sections there. I'll bet you just didn't put your hand down, JC. Is that right? It'll be our fun game this session. Does anybody need a little more time for reviewing that section? Okay, so I'm going to make a broad pass because I I know we made it all the way down, at least in my notes, we're down to the letter H in number 4. So I'm going to make a broad check over this first section. So ARM rule proposal 10.53.422. And we're in section point 1 here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, those in entirety through 4H. Is there any disagreement with the current proposed modifications and recommendation for language to adopt? Okay, it looks like you checked your work out from last time and you feel good about it. So let's now move on to section 5. And I'd like you to look at that whole section, and then we will come back and begin any discussion that's needed. Does anyone need a little more time with this section? Hey, I see your hand up, Marie, so you can get us started here.
Just following up with the consistency that we've done with the last many sets of standards and making sure we only have an and after E, 5E, versus and deleting them off of A, B, C, and D.
Okay. So you already have agreements about that. We don't need to check for consensus around those. And as some of those come up, it would be helpful if the committee just, brings McCall into that and just let her know the areas you already have agreements. That way she'll know why you're doing it and why I don't pay a lot of attention to it. McCall and Christy.
Thank you. Just maybe a general question. Do you have somebody that's going to be going through this afterwards to clean up commas and ands? Like, are these things that we need to be talking about right now, or is this something that can be done before it comes to the Board of Public Ed? Because that's just like a rulemaking sort of catch, I suppose.
I can respond because I and McCall, yes, it's in our last meeting, we realized that there was this kind of consistent extra ands, and we agreed as a committee to so we've already made that sort of agreement, and it will go forward, and the OPI will double check that on the back end. Had sort of agreed, let's sort of remind ourselves as we're going through so that we just catch it. But yes, there will be that the committee has already reminded the OPI to make sure we do that, and that when we, do that final overview at the end. Absolutely. So thank you for that. One question I had, and it's coming back to, I remember last time we had this conversation. So this is more for discussion and maybe questioning all of your thoughts on this one. Under E here, 5E, for the writing where it says use simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences to write a cohesive multi-paragraph text. And I read that again today, and I still kind of went back and forth a little in my mind. We're in 7th grade, and we would like to think that students are writing more than one multi-paragraph text. Again, we kind of go back and forth to the assessment piece. Do we assess multiple texts? Do we assess just one text? But I start to feel, thinking just about what expectation are we setting for our students? And we really do want them to be writing many multi-paragraph texts in 7th grade, I would think. So I wanted to put that out there for discussion and see if anyone else was thinking that this morning.
Okay, any other comments by the committee? Jody. We'll have to unmute Jody. I'll bet you're saying something amazing, but you're going to get a second
Not really.
chance.
I was just looking at the 6th grade, because we did keep that singular text in that. But I totally understand the argument Christy's making. So I'm not sure, because if we change it here, we're probably going to have to go back and change it in the 6th grade, and I can't remember how far down we went. But yeah, we did change B, D, and E in 6th grade. So we probably need to make sure that we're consistent, both, going forward with that language, whatever it is.
Nicole.
I'd really like if we could keep it text, and the rationale and reason is because this is a new standard, this is one focus, and I think that these skills are going to be threaded throughout these other things that we're asking our students to write, and the teachers are having them write. And so I don't want to get too hung up here on adding an S because we think our teachers aren't going to do more of it if we don't put it there. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, other comments? Okay, we're looking at 5E. Is there any disagreement with the way it's Crystal?
In the previous standards, we had added implementing feedback to, let's see, it would be 5D. Are we still looking to do that for the remaining grades?
Yeah. That was one we did too.
Do you want to pull that one up? Are you looking at a particular one? Do we need to pull that up and let them look at it, or?
On 6th grade, Amy, could you share 6th grade so we can see that one, please?
Yeah, it's up.
Hey, Barbara.
I was just gonna note, while we have them pulled up, we changed the language on B, D, and E. I think someone else brought that up in 6th grade, so I think we probably want to look at B, D, and E to make the language consistent.
Okay, any disagreement with making those proposed changes? Not seeing any excitement around that, so we'll give you a chance to change those there, Claire and Amy.
What changes did we make for the language of B? For 6.
Give them a chance here, they can pull that back up for you. This is the one here.
I think we actually went back to the original language.
I think we said we were going to add something to guidance in that area.
Yeah, looking at the notes, Crystal proposed the original language with 7th grade additions.
Okay, where are we at here? What do we need to do next?
This is Erin. On the writing standard D, do we need to shift it so it aligns with the rest and starts with, what did we put on grade 6? Develop. I think we used develop instead of with feedback. To develop and strengthen the writing process by planning, revising, editing, rewriting. Just put that, and then we move feedback because we have feedback in there twice.
Okay, when you're done, read that off and then we'll.
All right. D is develop and strengthen the writing process by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, implementing feedback, or trying a new approach, focusing on purpose and audience.
Okay, any disagreement to the way that's currently written? Okay, are there others we need to look at that got changed? If you read those off, that way they'll know what's in the column there.
E is write a cohesive multi-paragraph text using simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences.
Okay, any disagreement with the way that's been modified? Okay, so does that take care of section 5 then? Are there any disagreement with the remaining proposed language? Okay. Let's move to section 6. There's just A, B, and C on this one. So this is research and inquiry standards for 7th grade are that each student will be able to. Does anybody need more time? Okay, Jody, whenever you're ready. Is it Jody Sue or just Jody? I want to make sure I get that right. You'll have to unmute.
I just wanted to suggest that, again, we look at the 6th grade language to make sure that we're aligning the language, because that was a discussion that we had when we were together last time. And so that final C has been changed, and I just want to make sure that the language is consistent from 6th grade to 7th grade on that particular item.
Okay. So let's look at 6th grade for this section. And C in particular is what you're calling out, Jody, is that correct? Okay. Justine?
I don't have a proposal right now, just maybe more of a comment. I'm not quite sure what this, other than conducting a short research project, with the output of this standard would be. Recognize and appreciate the role. I think we need to add clarity to what the output would be for this one, if that makes any sense. Maybe like feels like an opinion piece is the way it kind of reads.
Other comments?
Justine, I wonder then, as maybe a proposal, instead of saying to recognize and appreciate, we would change those words to analyze. So students will conduct research projects in order to analyze the role of the story, narrative, and oral tradition. I feel like that may help solve that problem a little bit more. It's just a definitive. And then I don't know if, in addition to that, if we then kind of go back to what we were thinking about in 6th grade and analyze the role of story, narrative, and oral tradition when reading informational and literary text by conducting short research projects. I don't know if we then switch it to have that analyzed first like we did in 6th grade. It seems a little wordy if we change that around for this one. So maybe we just sort of leave it as just changing to recognize and appreciate to analyze, and it might make that read a little better. Sorry, that was a lot of words. Hopefully everyone followed me on that.
Okay, Crystal, and then let's see where Claire and Amy are on this and what they need from you.
I changed, yeah, Amy's displaying it right now.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Crystal.
I was just thinking about how the 7th and 8th grade standard C for this one are exactly the same. So I was looking for some discussion around potentially tiering it. So this first one for 7th grade could be to understand the role, and then the 8th grade would be to analyze the role.
I like that idea, Crystal. I think that's good thinking ahead.
I'm assuming that was a formal proposal and they'll put that in for you. If not, say no. And then Marie, is this on the same
Yep,
one?
well,
Okay.
Yep, I just wanted to remind everyone that Claire put together all of our NRC recommendations, so you can see that vertical alignment on the updated NRC document. And then that will help. I was like, oh yeah, why am I trying to toggle back and forth?
So would it be helpful if she just puts that link for that in the chat right now as you reference it?
It's in there.
Okay.
The second link I posted.
Thank you, Claire. Marie, did you have another comment or is that old? Okay.
Old.
Okay, is that now, Claire, ready to be read?
Yes.
Wait a sec, just wait a minute. Crystal has her hand up, so let's see if she has an improvement.
Well, in the previous standards for this research category, we've been using the language from diverse cultural perspectives, including those written by and about Montana Indigenous people. So I propose that we continue that language.
Okay. Barbara?
When you look at the vertical alignment, the 6th grade standard doesn't follow any pattern. It kind of stands out. Every other standard starts the same. And then in 6th grade, we started with analyze. So I just wanted to flag that. And if no one is concerned about that, but the 6th grade is different than all of the other standards in the way we worded it.
Okay, so I think, Claire, you're making that change that Crystal suggested, and then we'll then focus on what Barbara just brought up for discussion. Clifton?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, if we're gonna put in to understand, I know that before when it says recognize, I can see where recognize was used as a form of being able to assess how they're doing this. So how are we gonna assess understand? I'm kind of curious of how that would work.
Committee member have a response for Clifton? I'll have to choose Barbara because her hand's up, but.
Well, and I think that and Clifton, I see what you're saying to understand, that the student would be able to write that about the role of the story, the narrative, or tell it to the teacher in some way. A teacher would gauge that understanding. But I wonder if we're scaffolding up, and we had that recognized, I mean, maybe identify is a better one for this instance, sort of, Clifton, because then if the student can identify the role of the story, the narrative, then that teacher, that's the assessment right there. Like, oh, they identified it here in this grade. Next grade, we're going to get on further a little bit more to maybe, and now analyze or compare or whatever the next step is. But I wonder if in this instance, an identify might be a first entry in that seems a little more clear.
Thank you.
Is there any
That's
further
exactly it.
discussion? Okay, Clifton, do you want to make a proposal on this one?
Yes, I would propose to add the word identify instead of understand.
Okay, so I don't want to lose Barbara's comments. And her comments were, I noticed that 6th grade stands out. And whether the committee had any thoughts or concerns about that in the scaffolding. Any further comments on that? Any disagreement with leaving it as is then? Okay. So A, B, and C, so we're on section 6. Are there any disagreements with the current modifications or the other proposed language as written? Do you want to read that, Claire? Is that?
Yeah. And I will note, this one includes perspectives, values, beliefs, and points of view, so have me make changes if I didn't do it right. Conduct short research projects to identify the role of story, narrative, and oral tradition, using sources from diverse cultural perspectives, values, beliefs, and points of view, including those of Montana Indigenous peoples.
Any disagreement with the way it currently reads? Okay, not seeing any disagreement. So that takes care of 6A, B, and C. So let's move to section 7. Speaking and listening standards for 7th grade are for each student will be able to A, B, C, and D. Does anybody need a little more time on that? Just raise your hand. Okay, not seeing anyone make that request. Let's look at section 7, and if you have anything for A or B. Is there any disagreement with the proposed language for A and B? Okay, is there any disagreement with the proposed language for C and D? 7C and D. Okay, seeing no disagreement. It looks like everyone in this group has graduated to the 8th grade. Oh, Crystal, maybe not. She's not going to let us out.
No, we can move on to 8th grade, but I do want to go back to the literacy practice tab and look at 1053 414.5. This is the only place where we do have that Montana's Indigenous people. So I would propose that we're changing that to including those by Montana Indigenous people, or something along that line, where we're getting rid of that apostrophe, that possessive.
Okay, any disagreement with that? Okay, let's let them take care of that. I think they have it in front of us right now. So you proposed getting rid of the apostrophe and then also make sure everything gets added as you suggested there, Crystal, before they read it.
Yeah, I feel like the language we've been using is including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. So maybe that language would work well.
Okay. McCall?
Thanks. On the previous standard we just looked at, it looked like we took out and respect. And it looks like it's still here. And I was just, and of course, I sort of just need some context if that was on purpose in previous standards and why it's still here.
Okay, further discussion on that? Christy, and then Crystal, I don't think that's a new one, but if it is, keep it up. Go ahead, Christy and Crystal.
I think for further discussion on what you were just saying, I feel like this is the practice standard. So these are sort of overall, and I think we hadn't discussed taking out respect in the practice standards, because it's more of a practice. And then when it comes to the actual standards and then thinking of that assessment piece, sort of like we were chatting about, how do you, kind of going into that assessment, like this is sort of a practice of respectful interactions or, respectful conversations, whereas it's slightly different when we're looking at those content standards for what that content producing could be. That's sort of how I think of it. So maybe someone.
Any other comments around that? Crystal, your hand is up. Do you have something to add? No. Okay.
And so can I ask for a clarification?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So it does sound like it will be in some sections, but not necessarily in others. Correct?
I think yes, and I would have to go back and look for sure, but I think we definitely wanted to keep it here in the practices. But I would have to go and look and see if we've kept it in others. I just don't remember in the other content standards. Someone else might remember more specifically than I do right now.
Would that be important to do now? Oh, look at, they've pulled that right up for us here. Give you a minute to review that. I'm not sure how much time you need on this, so I'll just check to see if you need a little more time. Yes, okay. Aaron?
In doing a quick search on our consensus passage, I don't see the word respect other than in the where is it? The literacy practices. That's the only place I'm seeing it. So if we need to add it in other places, we do need to take a look at that.
Other comments on that or specific proposals? Okay, folks. I'm not seeing any specific proposals on this. Do you need a little more time or? Okay, I'm just going to wrap back around with McCall.
I'm fine with it where it is. It just stood out to me that we removed it in one section and yet left it in another. And I'm a big consistency person, but yet I also realize I'm very new here. And so I understand that maybe there was rationale and maybe not. I don't know. So that is why I brought it to the forefront. Again, I do not feel strongly one way or the other, whether it's included or not.
Okay, thank you, McCall. Okay, seeing no proposals, we're going to go ahead and move on to the 8th grade, unless someone wants to stay in 7th grade, and by golly, we'll do it if you need to. No, I don't see anyone who wants to. So we'll go ahead and move to the 8th grade. Really great work, you guys. I, as a public person, I have a lot of respect for the fact that you pay such close attention to these things. Okay, so we're looking at ARM Rule Proposal 10.53.423, English Language Arts and Literacy Standards for the 8th grade. Let's start in Section 1 for Foundational Reading Standards for the 8th grade, are that each student will be able to, and there's just A there, so I'll let you read that real quick, and then we'll move on to 2, and then 3, and then I will ask for any dissent on all 3 of those. I see you, Marie. We'll just give them a chance to just kind of read the. Okay, Marie, whenever you're ready, I'm assuming it's number 1 you're looking at.
Proposing to maintain the consistency that we had in grades 6 and 7 to start with decode multisyllabic words and rearrange that.
Okay, is there anything for 2A? How about 3A? Is there any disagreement with 1, 2, or 3 in the way they've been modified or proposed? Okay. Let's look at Section 4 then. Reading comprehension standards for 8th grade are that each student will be able to. And I see A, B, C. Oh, this is a long one, you guys, but I want you to read the whole thing. It goes through H. That way you can see if there's anything connecting that you're concerned about. So we'll give you some time on this one to read through the entirety of section 4. Does anyone need a little more time? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone take me up on that. So let's look at section 4 and let's start with the top 3. If there's anything in the top 3, let's just start there. Is there any disagreement with the current proposed language for A, B, or C? Aaron?
It looks like, to be consistent with the previous grade levels, we need to add "and about Montana Indigenous peoples" on the end, assuming we want to stay consistent.
So this is in alignment with a pre-existing agreement that you already have consensus on.
And I should say that was for A.
Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing no other disagreement. So let's look at D, E, and F. Any disagreement with the proposed language there on D, E, or F? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement, so let's try G and H. Any disagreement with the proposed language there? Aaron?
Can I circle back to the one that ends in the word tone? So E. In 7th grade, it says "their impact on meaning and tone," and I'm just curious if that was an error and we should add that in, or if it's clear as it is on meaning and tone.
Marie? Is that for this one or a new one?
No, mine was C.
Okay, let's take care of E here first. Are you wanting to go back and look at 7th grade on this one, Aaron?
Yes.
I think they're going to pull that up for us. This is 8th grade, so we're going to look at the same one on 7th grade.
Yes, it's nearly identical. It's just missing "and their impact on meaning and tone," which would be the same. And I'm just thinking it might be helpful to have the impact listed there.
Aaron, I see what you're saying. When I'm looking at I thought 7th grade maybe I'm just looking at the wrong one in the tracking. It says determine the shades of meaning of words and phrases as they are used in a text. Is that?
Oh, yeah. Determine, yes, including figurative, connotative, and technical language and their impact on meaning and tone.
Yeah. And then 8th grade is evaluate the impact of the specific word
You're
choice.
right. Yep,
So
you're right. Thank you for
is
that.
is okay, so it is okay.
It is the same. I think in my mind, I was just looking at the order of it. It didn't make
Okay.
sense when, yes, you're right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so no changes with that. We're going to move to Marie has her hand up here.
Consistency on C, instead of including text, we've been updating it to say including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, we'll make that already agreed upon change, and then Crystal has something for us.
I was going to say the same thing about 7th and 8th grade A. Prior to 7th grade, we've been saying including those versus text. So adopting that language in 7th and 8th grade as well.
We just needed to warm up to remember all of our things that we remember.
That's right. It does. It's a little slower. See, McCall, you didn't have a thing to worry about. The whole group was going to go slow anyway for a little while. Okay, so that was another already agreed upon move you just made there, right, Crystal? I just want to confirm that. Okay, I see Jody saying yes, that's right. Okay, so I want to check, I'm going to check the whole thing out. This is for the entire section A through H. Is there any disagreement with the modifications and the current proposed language in those sections? Crystal, is that an old hand up or a new one?
I was just going to see if we were going to change 7th grade, the A as well. I know we're going backwards, but it's just that one word.
And that's for consistency, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take care of that. Is there any disagreement with taking care of that consistency for 7th grade? Okay, so we'll take care of that and before we move to section 5 with 8th grade.
Sorry, what change was that for?
I'll let go
A.
ahead, Crystal.
So we've been using including those by and about.
Okay, so those are done. So let's look at section 5. Writing standards for 8th grade are that each student will be able to, let's see, I see A through F on that. Barbara.
When I looked back through the vertically aligned one, sometimes it says texts by and about, and sometimes it says those by and about in that A when you look back through the vertical alignment. So I just want to make sure that we go back all the way through. And also I noticed that we didn't add it to, I think it was kinder first and second. And I didn't know if it also needed to go back and be added to kinder first and second.
Okay, how would you propose? Shall we just do it right now? Do you have all of the places we need to make those changes? Maybe the one thing is what is it that you've agreed to? From my understanding, it was those because it said text and text in a number of places. So we do need to make sure that you're clear as a committee about what you want for that language.
And I'm fine with those. I just want to make sure that it's consistent because it isn't in the vertically aligned document. Sometimes we say text and sometimes we say those.
Okay.
And then I'm asking the committee if we also feel like it needs to be added back to if it needs to be added to kinder first and second, or if there was a reason we took it out that I'm not or didn't add it that I'm not remembering.
Okay, so discussion for the committee on this, and then a proposal for how you would like Amy and Claire to make modifications on those. Erin?
Amy, could you pull up the vertical alignment so we could look at all of them side by side? I have it here, but it might be helpful to also see it together. Do we want to start with A and go from, and just peek at it from kinder over to eighth? I was trying to remember, Barbara, if we did text when we didn't reference text somewhere else in the standard. I was trying to remember that same thought.
I noticed in C, we have it, it looks like it's the same all the way across. It's just A where we go back and forth between saying text and those. And all of them have text in it a number of times, so I think we could just be consistent and say those.
I agree.
And then do we want to add that to K1 and 2 as well?
I sorry, Barbara, to answer your question or kind of have a further discussion, I feel when I look at the whole overall picture here of K1 and 2, I feel okay layering it into A at third grade because, you know, K1 and 2, we have it layered in sort of with prompting and support, participation, discussions about central ideas, and key details in a text, including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. So I'm okay leaving it, kind of adding it in third grade, like sort of it's, you know, again, scaffolding, building it in there. I feel okay with that. Others might have a different, and then perspective, but I also think, I feel like we've kind of already, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but agreed with changing, not being duplicative with text. So anytime that shows up, we'll make sure in that final review, I think the committee has already sort of said, if it's text, make sure to change that second text to those. So we'll make sure to get that cleaned up. But I feel like, unless I'm misremembering, I think we can make sure we catch that in the final review, but we've already sort of agreed to that if that sort of seems, I think that's kind of we don't want that duplication there. But that's my thoughts.
Crystal?
It's been a bit, but I felt like the reason we redid the first standard and added including those by and about Montana Indigenous people was so that if it was in that first one, it would sort of encompass all of them. Correct me if I'm not remembering correctly. So I guess I would propose that we put it in K1 too, unless I'm not remembering correctly.
Let's just see if there's any disagreement with
I
that
agree.
proposal.
Now that you say that, Crystal, I remember that conversation that that's why it was important to be in A. I just couldn't remember what our conversation was, so I would agree with Crystal.
Okay, any disagreement with that proposal? Okay. Just let me know, Amy and Claire, when you're ready to move back to 8th grade. Do we need to look at first, second, third, or were you able to do that in the alignment? Any other proposals around that, or are we good? Okay, Barbara's thumbs up, so I'm gonna go ahead and move us back to the 8th grade. And we were looking at section 5. So any disagreement with the proposed language for A, B, or C? How about D, E, and F? Okay. Let's move to section six, research and inquiry standards for 8th grade are that each student will be able to, and there's A, B, and C in this section. Marie?
I think I need to bring us back to section 5, sorry.
That's great. I just kind of hated it that we made it out of there so easy. What do you have, Marie?
Yes, for D is where we had implementing feedback rearranged within the structure. So develop and strengthen the writing process by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, implementing feedback, or trying a new approach focused on purpose and audience. And seeing if there's other language that we need to update to match better with 8th grade, but I think those are consistent grade to grade. Other than at the last sentence, and then I'm done.
Okay, so that was a formal proposal to. Okay, I think they captured it. Let's just read it and make sure they have what you proposed. Whenever you're ready, Claire.
Sorry, I was going on mute. I removed the with feedback from peers and adults as well. Develop and strengthen the writing process by planning, revising, editing, rewriting, implementing feedback, or trying a new approach, focusing on how well purpose and audience have been addressed.
Any disagreement? Okay, and did you say there's another section, Marie? Another one you wanted to look at? That's it. Crystal?
Sorry, I guess I missed my chance. I have to go back to 4. Do we need to go back to G and H and update the wording to match previously agreed upon wording? So in G, we've been including in culturally diverse texts. And then in H, we've been starting with the verb and then using the culturally diverse text at the end.
Committee comments? Is that a proposal, Crystal? That's the best way to get them to comment is just.
I mean, I feel like we've already agreed upon the language. So
okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. Very good. So they'll just make those changes and then we can move. Barbara.
I also noticed when we went back that in 5E, we'd been starting with the verb right. And so I don't know if we wanted to continue that through. We changed it in 7th grade. Instead of starting with use, we started with right.
Okay, any disagreement with that proposal? And that you said that was for 5E?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll take care of that one. The best way to get folks to pay attention is to just ask if there's any disagreement, and then we're for sure going to go back when we move. But if I ever don't give you enough time, just let me know. I'm here to work for you. Okay, whenever you get those changes made, we're going to go back and we're going to look at 6. Nice work, you guys. This is going to be so clean when you hand it off. Okay, so 6, research and inquiry standards for 8th grade, A, B, and C. I'll give you some time to read that. I'm sorry, Barbara, is your hand still up or I just looked up and I wasn't sure. Okay, that's all right, no worries.
I'm uncertain what to change in G, 4G.
4G? Or D, you said?
G.
Okay, Crystal, I think this is you here.
I think we can just take that language from 7th grade G. So it says it's text, comma, and then including in culturally diverse texts and those that represent the perspective, or well, it's not perspectives now. And those by and about Montana Indigenous people instead of perspectives.
So you're looking at the language from 7th grade, 4G. Okay.
Okay.
Aaron?
And then when that's done, Barbara, I think it was 5E, you wanted to shift also to right in 8th grade.
So Claire, let's make sure that they have a chance to hear what you changed there, just to make sure. I know they went kind of fast there, so Crystal had a proposal on that. So I think it's G was the one that maybe read what you ended up with there.
Okay, for G, analyze how point of view or purpose shapes the content and style of a text, including in culturally diverse texts and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, is there any disagreement with that modification? Okay. So now you would like to make sure that 5E had that, I think the verb changed is what you said, right, Barbara?
Yeah, just to mirror 7th, 6th, and 7th, starting with right. A cohesive multi-paragraph text using.
Okay, when you're done, Claire, just read it. That way we can make sure before we
Write a
move on.
cohesive multi-paragraph text appropriate to task and purpose using a variety of sentence types.
Okay, any disagreement with that? Okay, before we move on to section 6, was there anything else we were cleaning up? Okay, let's go ahead and look at 6A, B, and C, research and inquiry standards for 8th grade. Does anyone need a little more time? Okay. Is there any disagreement with A, the way it's currently proposed? Any disagreement with B as proposed? How about C? Any disagreement? Okay, looks like section 6 is all right. All right, let's look at section 7 for the 8th grade speaking and listening standards for 8th grade. And this is A through D. So go ahead and read, Crystal.
I'm just that person. I feel like we missed this in 7th grade also, but standard C, it looks like
6C.
Yes, 6C. It looks like we've been including this diverse cultural perspectives prior to going into Montana Indigenous people. So if we're wanting to continue that previously agreed upon, that we would say from diverse cultural perspectives, including those by and about for that C, we would want to add that in for 7th and 8th grade.
Okay, that's not a new agreement, so we're going to let them do it, but I do want to look at it so that you can see that it's been changed the way you wanted it. So we'll look at 7th grade, and then we'll come back and look at 8th grade, just to make sure that those are. So we're in 8th grade now, so let's look at 7th grade. I'm not sure if that's Amy going to put that on our screen for 7th grade or Claire.
Oh, it looks like we did it for 7th grade. It was just in a different spot. So we just need to add it in for 8th grade. My apologies.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Conduct short research.
Never mind. Ignore me.
No, we won't do that.
Copy. I'm gonna just mute myself.
Should I read it?
It's an already previous agreement.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
save your voice for bigger things. Okay, so we're looking at 7. Thank you, Crystal. You just be that person all day long, okay? So 7A, B, C, and D. Does anyone need more time? Any disagreement with 7A, the way it's been proposed? I think your hand is just up old, Crystal. Yeah. Any disagreement with B as proposed, 7B? Any disagreement with the proposal for 7C? How about 7D? Any disagreement as proposed? Okay, is there any disagreement with moving to the 9th grade after a short break? Okay, let's go ahead and let's just take a 5-minute break. We don't have too much time. We'll move right into maybe we better take a longer break. Maybe we better have a 10-minute break just in case. And so we'll be back here in 10 minutes. So at 10:22, we'll go ahead and start with the 9th grade. Well done, you made it through the middle school section. So nice work this morning. See you back in 10 minutes. Let's wait for a few more faces to pop up online here before we. Okay, folks, welcome back. We're going to start working on ARM Rule Proposal 10.53.424, English Language Arts and Literacy Standard for 9th and 10th grade. We're, of course, going to start with section 1 there. Oh, Marie.
Gonna grab the easy one, just consistency on 1A from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade using the decode multisyllabic. Updating to say decode instead of having demonstrate decoding skills. So decode skills by using combined knowledge of syllabication patterns and morphology to accurately read unfamiliar multisyllabic words in and out of context. Thought it was gonna be easier than it was.
Bet you got it in the end. Okay, and I believe that's already it's low-hanging fruit you've already agreed to. Okay. Any disagreement with 1A, the way it's been modified? Okay, let's look at section 2, vocabulary standards for 10th grade. A and B. Anybody need a little more time? Okay. Is there any disagreement with the proposed language 2A or B? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement, so let's move to section 3. Fluency standards for 9th and 10th grade. And there's just section A there, or there's just an A. Now I'm just remembering this would be a whole nother group that worked on this section in the task force. So sometimes that gets a little exciting for you. Okay, any disagreement with 3A as proposed? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement. How about for section 4, reading comprehension standards for 9th and 10th grade? Looks like A through H. So this is quite a lengthy section, so I'm going to give you plenty of time to look that over. I see you, Marie. We'll just wait till everyone's had a chance to review the whole thing. Yeah. Does anybody need a little more time to go through those? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone make that request. So Marie, let's start with you.
Yep, again on 4A, just consistency's purposes, adding after the semicolon, including, or maybe change the semicolon to a comma and saying including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples, semicolon.
Okay, any disagreement with A, B, or C for section 4? As proposed? I should say and or modified. For A, B, or C, any disagreement? Okay,
We just need to update C to say including those by.
okay, so no dissent on A, B, or C. So any disagreement with D, E, or F in the way those were proposed?
I might be opening a can of worms here, but
Okay.
if in this instance, we need to leave it as the word text. And the reason is because just the way this one is structured, we're analyzing how a theme or central idea is developed over the course of a text, and then discussing how details shape, define, and forward a theme or central idea. If we put comma including those, it's really including texts. I don't think it's just themes of by and about Montana Indigenous people. So I feel like maybe in this instance, we need to leave it as text, but.
Crystal, do you have a new one or is your comment regarding?
Well, I agree with Christy. I think it makes more sense to leave text here.
Okay, so any disagreement with that?
I agree.
Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement. No can of worms here. As hard as you tried on that.
Oh, sorry, I
Okay,
meant to raise my hand.
go ahead.
On G and H, I just wanted to point out the same thing Christy did. It looks like we would change those to those, but in that on G and H, they need, for context, they need to stay with text.
So no changes.
No comment. Yep.
Okay, so I can't remember if I checked for D, E, and F. Any disagreement with the way those have been proposed? Okay, G and H. Crystal?
Should F be creates?
Or creating.
Choices create.
Claire, could you just read it how it currently sounds?
Yes.
Just read it out loud for him.
Analyze how an author's choices to structure a text create specific effects and impact meaning.
Oops, I think she actually said creates.
No, I said create.
It's okay.
Okay.
So what do you folks want to do here? You want to leave it as create or do you have another proposal? Marie, are you the one that brought that up? Crystal? Might have been Crystal. Janelle?
Well, I think if we change it to creates, then we need to create specific effects and impacts meaning, and so change that as well.
You cut
If
out a
we-
little bit. Could you say it just one more
Oh,
time?
if we change it to creates, then I think we need to also have how it impacts meaning. Change that as well. Otherwise, I would think leave it as create.
Okay, let me just check it out. Is there any disagreement with the current language as it was proposed to the NRC? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement with that. Okay, is there any disagreement with section 4, A through H, as modified or proposed to the NRC? Okay. So let's look at section 5, writing standards for 9th and 10th grade. And that's A through E. Crystal?
Are we for G and H for the previous one are not, what is it, the last two? Sorry, the letters. Yeah, G and H. Are we just assuming that we're adopting in the culturally diverse texts part because we've already agreed upon it and that'll happen later? Or should we put those in now?
I'm going to let Marie comment because she's the one that brought those up.
Same thing. I was talking about the last statement, but I was going to raise my hand to say exactly what Crystal said about bringing in culturally diverse texts.
Okay. So like you said, Crystal, you already have an agreement about that. You're just asking that it gets done for G and H for section 4. So they have that in there. So we're still focusing on 5 here for any modifications or does anyone need a little more time for section 5 to look at it? Just raise your hand if you do. Okay, I'm not seeing any requests. So section 5, writing standards. Any disagreement for A, B? Not seeing any disagreement with A or B. Any disagreement with the proposed language for C or D? Marie?
This is the one where we've had implementing feedback.
Is it C or D that you're looking at?
Oh, sorry, C, D.
Okay, for D.
And I don't have a proposal, I'm just calling it out.
Other comments then by the committee?
I can have a proposal if you guys want me to formalize it. Of adding, implementing feedback and editing to produce clear and coherent writing. So before the and, after revising. However, that's different from before. So yeah, someone else tackle it.
So Janelle, is this a new one or is this the same one you'd like to?
It's the same one. I just have a question.
Okay.
This was a different group that did the high school. So was there a reason that anyone knows that they specifically didn't put feedback in the 9 through 12?
So you're just asking for some discussion around this, correct?
Yes.
Committee thoughts around that?
I'm looking at the
Discussion point?
original standards, because that could have translated from Common Core even, from many moons ago.
Okay, we'll just. Crystal?
It's about the same standard, but not specific the feedback part of it. But in the previous ones, we had started with the verb, what they would need to do as the action in the standard, and moved the planning organizing to later. Somebody else could try to wordsmith it, but are we wanting to do that here as well?
Comments or help from the committee on that?
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with Crystal on what you're saying there, because it seems it's just going to using the writing process, but we're really talking about developing and strengthening writing, right? It's not just using the process, they're really strengthening their writing, especially in high school. So I think I would agree with starting off with, develop and strengthen their writing. And I almost would maybe say in high school, we don't even need process, like develop and strengthen their writing by planning, organizing, draft and with feedback. I like having feedback in there too. So I think that would be my proposal, would be to start with develop and strengthen their writing by planning, organizing, drafting, revising, implementing feedback, and editing.
So, Maria, are you proposing that we get rid of produce clear and coherent writing and replace that with develop and strengthen?
I'm just sorry, I was just waiting for it to come up on the screen so I could see. Sorry, I didn't mean to go ahead and do.
That wasn't me that said.
Sorry.
Okay, no, I was just making sure. I'm like, what did I? I'm looking
That
back
was
at the notes.
Let me just see what it has here so I can see. Planning or produce. It is a lot, but I feel like we need to keep the clear and coherent writing, right? Like that's exactly the purpose. That's the outcome. That's sort of what we're going for. That I would just.
In looking back at the task force notes, I don't see anything specific about, there was nothing in there in the original language that said giving feedback of any form in the 9, 10, and 11, 12. It did start with develop and strengthen writing as needed in the original standard. So we're on the right track.
Do you have everything you need there, Claire, to?
Yeah, I can read it.
Thank you.
Develop and strengthen writing by planning, organizing, drafting, revising, implementing feedback, and editing. To produce clear and coherent writing in which the development and organization are appropriate to task, purpose, and audience.
Any disagreement with that proposed modification?
And I might just say, it looks like the only change for 11 and 12 was including the word style. And so if we are kind of okay with change to D, maybe go ahead and remember, we'll pop that over to 11 and 12 and include the word style because that was in the initial one, just thinking forward.
And I just know you put that on your notes, so you'll be able to catch it right away when we get to 11 and 12. Okay. Okay, so section 5, A through E. Any disagreement with those modifications and or the proposed language to the NRC? Okay. Crystal? Oh.
I didn't know my hand was up and I didn't realize I was not on mute, but
yeah, I saw you unmute and so I was being preemptive.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But since we're here,
yeah, let's do it.
That language from C.
5C. Are you talking about 5C, Crystal?
Yes.
Okay.
So what
Is there something
changes
that
are we
needs
making?
proposed? I think we're just waiting for Crystal.
Cultural perspectives.
In C?
Are we not on 6?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you, that is my fault because I thought we were going back to 5, but we're looking at 6C. Is that correct, Crystal?
Yes, I was looking at 6C.
Okay, awesome.
Just same language I agree to.
Okay. Does anybody need more time to review research and inquiry standards?
This one, Crystal, just, and see if you can help me with this one. I'm having a really tough time with this one where it says non-Indigenous text for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives regarding Montana Indigenous people. Now, I understand that it's saying, I understand what it's saying, and I'm hoping that teachers will understand this too. But what I'm having a difficult time with here is that it's kind of, to me, saying that non-Indigenous texts have stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives about Montana Indigenous people. I really would just prefer that this just says conduct research projects about diverse perspectives and analyze them for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives. I just don't really like that we have non-Indigenous texts that we're analyzing, because I guess from my perspective, I know that Indigenous texts also have assumptions, stereotypes, and conflicting perspectives regarding other Indigenous people. And so I'm just having some conflict, a little bit of dissonance about this non-Indigenous text for stereotypes. I would prefer that it would just say something along the line of conduct research projects about diverse perspectives, including those of Indigenous people, and analyze those for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives. I just don't know. Yeah. Conduct research projects drawing on texts written by and about Montana Indigenous people and analyze texts for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives. Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for some discussion around this. I see Crystal's got her hand
Yeah,
up.
that makes sense. No, that's perfect. Whoever wrote that,
I just included your one change to the analyzing.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. You're figuring me out. Whoever did that, perfect. If that is what you guys would be okay with, I would be a little bit more comfortable with that if you guys are okay with that. But obviously my word is not the word of everybody. So what do you guys think? Are you
Okay. Christy, can you help us out with this?
I was just going to suggest, because JC, I completely agree with you and what you're saying on this point of like, this is the standard really needs to be about the skill, right? So I 100% agree. And I wonder if we just make it conduct research projects that analyze texts for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicted perspectives. How I may be having to back myself up now because it doesn't.
I know, and we can even put we can even put non-Indigenous perspectives in there. Like, I mean, I don't really have a problem with that either. Like, we can,
And it is a new standard. It says over in the left column, this is a new standard. Crystal.
What if it was like conduct research projects analyzing text for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives, and including culturally, what did I read from before? Including from culturally diverse perspectives, culturally diverse perspectives, including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. Someplace in there, I feel like we did this in a previous standard. We put in diverse, I think we put in genre. So maybe we say from diverse cultural perspectives and what's our original one? And viewpoints or something to get that both, or get looking for more than one viewpoint on looking for the stereotypes, but having it looks like it's there.
I'm liking where C is going, but I wonder if the first part maybe should read conduct research by analyzing texts, because research projects analyzing doesn't sound quite right, but conduct research by analyzing texts.
Crystal, is that a new hand? Okay, are we ready to have this read off? And you can look for, is this getting to the purpose and what they intended for it to do? So let's have it read off, and you folks can make sure it says what it needs to say.
Conduct research by analyzing texts for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives, including culturally diverse texts and those regarding Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, Crystal?
Sorry, I'm getting hung up on I think I did this before, on the word text, because research doesn't always have to come in the form of a text. So can we come up with another word to put in for text? Or even maybe including culturally, though, somebody else.
Okay, committee thoughts on that?
I think I can look back. Did we use the word media in a prior one? Or sources? I think we've used sources. So we used sources before. So I wonder if maybe sources might work better here.
Are you proposing to change text to sources?
Yes, so conduct research by analyzing sources.
Yeah, the original one had both print and digital sources. So I think just sources would be sufficient.
So could we change the culturally diverse text also to sources?
Okay, Amy, where are you at in terms of, Claire, sorry. Do you need more help from them or guidance about what they're wanting?
I think I have all those changes reflected in that third one.
Okay, let's read it one more time.
Conduct research by analyzing sources for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives, including culturally diverse sources and those regarding Montana Indigenous peoples.
Marie?
Should it be including those by and about here, or is regarding more appropriate? I know we were trying to make the original language work, but I think it's changed so much in the top that it can now be by and about.
Crystal? Okay, is there any disagreement with the,
Yeah, I don't have any preference. It's kind of up to you guys, whatever your guys' preference is.
okay, is there any disagreement with the current modifications for 6C? Okay, any disagreement for section 6A, B, or C? Okay, let's move to section 7. These are speaking and listening standards for 9th and 10th grade. And that's A through D, and we'll look at all of those. Okay, does anyone need a little more time with those? Section 7, A, B, C, or D? Marie?
Right now I'm focused on B and all of the verbs that we have analyze, evaluate, evaluate. And it's a lot to assess in one thing. I think we could update it to analyze information presented in a variety of formats, evaluating the credibility, accuracy, and motives behind the presentation. Oh wait, accuracy of sources. Oh, I need a minute.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Okay. Christy, is there a different one or is this the same one?
Mine is different, so I'll hold on to it for a second.
Let's just see if there's any other committee members who want to comment on the issue that Marie brought up. And if not, we're going to let her work on that and we'll move to yours. Any comments from committee members? Crystal, is that a?
Yeah, can
Okay.
we just say evaluate the credibility and accuracy of the sources and the motives behind its presentation?
Would you like to see how that reads, Crystal?
Sure.
Claire, do you need a repeat?
Nope. I was just unmuting. Analyze information presented in a variety of formats. Evaluate the credibility and accuracy of the sources and the motives behind its presentation.
I do actually have, sorry, I'm jumping in here.
That's all right. Your hand's up, and then I see McCall put her hand up. So we'll do Christy, then McCall.
Yeah, I start to feel like we had this conversation, I think, a little while back, not exactly on this, but on sort of opinion. I find this one trickier with the motives. Like, it's just, there's kind of maybe a presumption that there are motives or there aren't motives. So I wonder if it's not that we're evaluating motives, just maybe identifying if there are motives, or I don't, this seems a little, that one's harder, I think, to assess. Is important to understand that there's motivation in speaking, but when we're evaluating the credibility and accuracy, I think kind of inherent is the motivation of this presentation, maybe. So I'm wondering if there's a way to rework that latter part. This is kind of just discussion.
Okay, McCall, and then Aaron, did you remove your hand? So McCall and then Aaron.
Thank you. Mine is actually on a different one. Do you want me to do that now?
Okay, we'll put you off to the side here for a minute. So Aaron, is this a new one or is this
No,
the same?
same. I have
Okay.
a thought on this one as well for Christy. I was thinking, are we assessing the motives? Maybe there needs to be a word before motives that's telling us what we're doing. So I didn't know if we were analyzing or assessing. That was just,
if it's just identify at this, I mean, we're in high school, they can just identify it, maybe. Although it's not really helping us reduce the amount of verbs that we had started, I think.
Okay, who can help us out here? Marie, is this a new one or?
Same.
Same.
No,
Okay.
so as it's reading right now, you're analyzing, so verb analyzing the information. You're evaluating the credibility and accuracy. Okay, now with the identify. So then it would be analyze, evaluate, and identify are the three verbs. I'm wondering if there's potential to move some of this to guidance rather than have so much of it within one standard. I don't have a proposal for what that is yet, though. I need to type it out.
Yeah.
Okay, Christy.
I might, Marie, I agree with you. And I just wonder if we can take out the whole first part of the analyze information presented in a variety of formats and just start with evaluate the credibility and accuracy of sources, of a variety of sources, because then that gets to the variety of formats. So maybe we just, so we can strike the whole first part and then evaluate the credibility and accuracy of a variety of sources. And then it sort of, does that hold the same meaning?
Are you proposing to look at that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So that they'll do that.
So that one reads, evaluate the credibility and accuracy of a variety of sources and identify the motives behind their presentation.
Okay, is there any disagreement with that proposed modification? Okay, McCall, you have a new one for us?
Thanks, Diane. I was just wondering if in C, the second part of that says identifying, I'm just wondering if that should be identify or if identifying is actually correct.
Comments from the committee members? Claire, you want to go ahead and read it?
Analyze a speaker's point of view, reasoning, and use of evidence and rhetoric, identifying fallacies, faulty reasoning, and problematic evidence. Consider the cultural backgrounds and lived experiences of the speaker and audience.
Okay, proposals for that? Or discussion? Aaron?
I agree. I think it should be identify.
Okay. Okay, any disagreement with that modification? Changing identifying to identify.
I put an and in there, so it's parallel structure with the analyze.
Okay, Claire is revealing an and that she has added. Christy, is this the same one? Let's let Claire read this and then I'll ask one more time and then we'll move to the new one.
Analyze a speaker's point of view, reasoning, and use of evidence, and rhetoric and, oh, sorry. I'll read that again. I got the phrasing weird. Analyze a speaker's point of view, reasoning, and use of evidence and rhetoric, and identify fallacies, faulty reasoning, and problematic evidence. Consider the cultural backgrounds and lived experiences of the speaker and audience.
Any disagreement with that modification? Okay, thank you. Christy, what's the next one?
I was looking up at A, and I just wondered about the word diverse in front of partners. And just, it seems like that might be a tricky thing for diverse partners. I think it maybe the intent is a variety of partners, but so I just wondered what the committee felt about that, changing diverse to variety in A.
So looking for some discussion around that.
Yeah, I feel like variety may be more of the intent.
I think I agree with that.
Yes, please.
Aaron?
I agree with that too. I wanted to go back to see if I can.
Okay, so I think we're going to make that change that Christy just, would you like to change that to a proposal since you've had some agreement there? And then we'll check it out and then we're going to move back to C.
I'm just wondering if after rhetoric, it could be a semicolon instead of another and.
I suppose that's a question for ARM rule experts here.
And it makes more sense that way.
Okay.
What was the change for D?
Was there one?
Or was it A?
It was A.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the change?
I think that was yours, Christy.
Just to change the word diverse in front of partners to a variety of partners.
Okay, any disagreement with that modification? Okay, let's check out the whole section for 7, A through D. Any disagreement with the proposed modifications or the proposed language to this NRC? Okay, that takes care of section 7. Well, look at that. We're moving into 11th and 12th. Okay, so this is ARM Rule 10.53.425, English Language Arts and Literacy Standards for 11th through 12th. We'll, of course, start there with section 1. And there's just A underneath there, so just leave you a little bit of time to read that, and then we'll move to 2. And if you have a modification, just put your hand up. Is there any disagreement with the proposed language for foundational reading standards? Section 1A. Marie,
I was seeing if someone else would grab it. Just update from demonstrate decoding to decode.
might just be your thing.
Using, decode using combined. So yeah, get rid of demonstrate skills and decode using combined knowledge of syllabication patterns and morphology, etc.
And that's carry forward for consistency. Crystal?
Can we get rid of the word? So in 9-10, we have to code by using, and like, can we get rid of by in 9 and 10 as well?
Just took it out.
Thank you.
Okay. Marie, were you needing something else? Okay. Okay, so let's look at section 2, vocabulary standards for 11, 12, A and B.
Wondering in A if we wanted to say including those. I believe we got rid of words and phrases in previous standards.
Erin, are you just wanting confirmation from someone?
Yeah, I need to go back and look to see that we got rid of words and phrases and that it makes.
Okay.
I think, oh, sorry, here's my hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
I think we left it as words and phrases before. Double check, because again, this is one of those that has a lot of those commas after, and so kind of clarifying which it's referring back to. I think we might need to keep it on this one, but we could double check that. And I guess while we're on this, I do have a question about defend the inferred meaning of words and phrases in context. What does that assessment look like of defending the inferred meaning? I almost feel like it's really we're asking them to identify inferred meaning rather than defend it, because we're looking at a source and that's already there. And I don't know, I feel like maybe identify might just be more appropriate here. Some discussion and maybe a proposal if someone else agrees with me.
Okay, so open for discussion then.
I think I'd like to add, I think part of that when it says defend is more of like it's like a self-advocacy portion. So how to gauge how they're advocating for how they view it.
Okay, other comments?
So maybe Clifton, I think in that way, I wonder if articulate would be better, because then that kind of does both of those. They have to identify it then to articulate exactly what you're saying. So I wonder if how does that sound?
Someone want to try some? Oh, Erin, sorry, I missed you there.
Oh, that's okay. I just, I went back and did look, and it looks like we did keep words and phrases. And then in the rationale, there is some information about that. So it looks like it could stay.
Okay, do you want to read that rationale, and then maybe Clifton or Christy could have a proposal for? Do you see the rationale, Erin?
Yeah, it just says,
Okay.
yeah, I saw it. I didn't know if it just says the condensed vocabulary standards for clarity included words and phrases with cultural significance to Montana Indigenous peoples to emphasize cultural connotations, key to comprehending diverse texts. It makes sense.
Okay. Crystal.
What about if we put, instead of defend, we're analyzing the inferred meaning of words and phrases? Not analyzing, analyze.
Would you like to propose that so we can check it out? I wasn't sure if it was discussion or proposal.
Discussion.
Okay. Other discussion needed on that? Otherwise, we'll need a proposal or it'll stay as it is.
I would like to throw out the idea of, instead of defend, challenge, put the word challenge in there.
So it would read challenge the inferred meaning.
Well, not I don't know. That's not it. I'm sorry.
Okay, you want to pause
Scratch-
that? Okay.
Scratch that.
Okay. Okay, let's, I'm not seeing any proposals for the moment on that. So does anyone have, Marie, do you have a proposal?
Not a proposal, but I am looking back at the previous language standards. So if you look at the left-hand side, you can see the reference to the previous standards. So if everyone's okay, I'll read off 11 through 12.3 is apply knowledge of language to understand how language functions in different contexts or to make effective choices for meaning or style, to comprehend more fully when reading or listening. And then there's a sub one, and then it's determine or clarify the meaning of unknown multiple meaning words and phrases. And then there's like 3 sub under that. And then 5 is demonstrate understanding of figurative language, word relationships, and nuances in the word. So this one standard is trying to take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you guys want to go back and look at those original language standards, it's a good attempt, but still some work needed.
You're up, Christy. I think Crystal's just left over. And then Aaron, Christy, and then Aaron.
I wonder if then kind of when you were reading that, Marie, it makes me think that this is the first time that we're really talking about the inferred meaning and we're kind of grappling with that as 11th and 12th graders and what that means. And so I'm wondering if we've talked a lot about, analyze but I wonder if it's just determine the inferred meanings of words and phrases in context, because then they're going to cite the context. They're going to looking at that morphology, etymology, the role a culture plays. And so I wonder if determine the inferred meanings of words gets to kind of what we're talking about. I know I keep changing these words, but as we're discussing, this determine might be the right fit here.
I like it. I like that's a strong word. That's what I think I was looking for as well.
Aaron, is this the same one or a new one?
Same one, but I wouldn't mind seeing it the way Crystal, or no, it wasn't Crystal.
Christy and Clifton.
Christy,
for that.
I was like, who gave that suggestion?
Clifton and Christy. For that.
Yeah. And then I had one other thought in that same.
So shall we let him get it written up there first?
Yeah.
Look at that, and then you can further modify it.
So I just added the determine. Did you also mean to get rid of more of it, Christy?
No, I was just thinking determine. I don't know if Clifton had another thought as we were talking about it.
Okay, do you want to read that when you're ready? And then I think Aaron's going to maybe have a further modification.
Determine the inferred meaning of words and phrases in context, citing context, morphology, etymology, and the role that culture plays in the transformation of language over time, including words and phrases with cultural significance to Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, any disagreement? What would you add, Aaron?
I was thinking it could say in context by citing, and then after etymology, it could say and cultural influences on language change over time. Just to kind of shorten all of that up.
Hey, did you catch that first part, Claire?
No.
I can help.
Okay, go ahead.
After context, let phrases in context by citing context, morphology, etymology, and then comma, and cultural influences on language change over time, comma, then it would be including words and phrases.
Marie, is that a new?
My only question is, do we still need that first in context, or can we assume context because the next part you're citing the context? And I know words and phrases in context is a very common thing that we have, but is that implied because of the next statement or not?
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and read it as it's been modified and then see if something else needs done.
Marie, was that a proposal to remove the in context?
Not yet.
Okay. Determine the inferred meaning of words and phrases in context by citing context, morphology, etymology, and cultural influences on language changes over time, including words and phrases with cultural significance to Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, any disagreement with that modification? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement. Now we have, let's see, B to look at in section 2. Any disagreement with the proposed language there for 2B? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement for 2A or B, so let's move to 3, fluency standards for 11th and 12th grade. And there's A. Crystal?
I was hoping we could jump back to 9th and 10th grade, vocabulary standard 2A, and get rid of the word accurately. And we just say determine the meaning of words.
Okay, so we're looking at 2A right now. Or you mean from the one we just looked at, you want to go back to 9th and 10th?
Yes, and I propose deleting the word accurately.
Okay, so they'll move us back there so we can take a look at that. So once you've made the change, that proposed change, Claire, do you want to read it?
Determine the meaning of words and phrases in context, including figurative, connotative, cultural, and technical meanings, and words and phrases with cultural significance to Montana Indigenous peoples.
Any disagreement with that modification? Okay. Does anyone need more time to read 3A? Erin?
I have an idea for the question Marie had on, I think this would be on a grade 11 and 12, 2A, where it has context twice. I'm agreeing, like maybe it could be determine the inferred meaning of words and phrases, comma, citing context, and then continue with everything else. Does that, I mean, we know it just gets rid of one of the context.
Are you looking for discussion around that, or you want to make a proposal?
I guess that's my proposal. So yes, discussion's great too.
For consistency, we could keep in context above, and then would citing context be needed if they're already in context? And then go, no. I'm good with either keeping it in or not. For consistency's sake, it does have words and phrases and context in 10th and or 9th and 10th. I just don't like the redundancy, but I don't want to take away the content.
I'm fine either way as well.
Okay, so is there any disagreement with it as it was currently proposed, modified and proposed? We don't have a new proposal on the table. Okay, thank you. Okay, so 3A, is there any disagreement with the way that wording has been proposed? I'm not seeing any disagreement, so let's look at section 4, reading comprehension standards for 11th and 12th grade. And there's quite a few on this one, so that's going to go A through H. So we'll give you some time to go through that. Does anyone need a little more time to complete that? Okay, I'm not seeing any takers on that, so let's look at 4A, A or B. Any disagreement with the proposed language for 4A or B? Marie? You're on mute. It'll give you a
That's not
second
helpful.
chance here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples for 4A at the end.
Janelle?
I don't know how to change it, but I just think that last phrase where it says including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain doesn't quite sound right. It just sounds like it's hanging out there. So I don't know how to fix it, but I feel like it should be fixed.
Okay. But it won't be long and there will be a proposal for that. Marie?
I'm going to read it out. Cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text, and semicolon, determine where the text leaves matters uncertain. So I'm not quite there, but it's getting,
Okay.
including text by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. I get the double including is what made that tricky, is what we're saying, Janelle.
I have a suggestion for this maybe. What if we were to word it, cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what this text says explicitly, comma, inferentially, comma, including, I don't know how we would say including uncertainty. Sorry, but at least that might get rid of that first part. I don't know, I don't know if you're typing and I just can't see it or not. It's kind of might be easier to see.
Well, they have it in pink, so I think they might be working on showing you that. Is that right, Claire? Ah, here she is.
Yeah. It's not done.
Yeah.
Definitely not done, but then I kind of got lost in what I was saying. So thanks, Claire. I know that's hard work.
Okay, so let's take another look at it before they read it off so you can.
Yes, we have to fix a couple things here. I think strong and thorough textual. So let's remove as well as inferences drawn from the text. And then I wonder if we say using a variety, and so instead of stating including text by and about, using a variety of texts, a variety of culturally diverse texts. Using a variety, and that might get rid of the word including, but I'm not sure where that's landed for us. Sorry for the thinking out loud.
Then once they get that done, Marie, go ahead. You okay, Claire, for Marie to add something?
Yes.
Okay.
Try to full restructure, but maybe we read this one first.
Cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly and inferentially, including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain, using a variety of culturally diverse texts and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Janelle?
So I guess just another question. So is uncertain mean unclear? I mean, I guess that's the part as somebody reading this, what are they gonna get from this? Do they know what they're supposed to do or what the task is?
Okay, discussion. Crystal?
If we're going to use at the end saying using a variety of culturally diverse texts, can we just go back to the original language and say using a variety of?
Did you understand that, Claire?
Yes, I think. So it would be using a variety of texts and those by and about?
Well, I was just thinking if the proposal is to change the second part of it from including culturally diverse texts and those by and about to using a variety of culturally diverse texts, then we don't have to change anything else with the standard. We can just keep the same original standard. I guess my only issue with this is I feel like I read it now with this change that was proposed previously as saying that we're only doing this by using certain texts.
You're comparing what's in the left column for A, looking at the changes made. And you're saying that that then puts a focus on this that doesn't exist as it was originally written.
Yes. Well, as not as we originally adopted the addition to Standard A.
Marie?
Trying to get back to a discussion point, more of the meaning behind this standard. And we're really focused on citing strong and thorough text evidence, supporting the analysis of explicit and inferred. My question for my high school experts is, if you're talking about inferences, do you need to point out that there's things that the text are leaving out? Because isn't that part of an inference analysis?
You are correct. That would be correct. Affirmative.
Okay.
Crystal,
Other comments?
Crystal's hands up, so I was seeing if she had a. Oh, okay.
I was ignoring her because I knew she was going to see it.
Okay.
Clifton?
This is obviously kind of new to me as far as reading this in text, but how would you be able to evaluate the inference?
I'm happy to take this. Well, it's kind of just like that. You ask the student, what conclusions can you draw from the text? There isn't really a right or wrong answer. There's some things that we can draw from a text, but a student, you'll ask them to infer, or what is the author, themes are inferred. And then you ask the student to give a little bit of context clues, what they're drawing those conclusions from. And so does that kind of make sense, Clifton?
It does. I guess you're just looking to see that they are inferring instead of instead of just taking it for face value and not trying to go more in depth.
Yeah, you literally ask them to infer, basically. You'll say these are inferential, or and you start that way, like in 9th and 10th grade, and then in 11th and 12th grade, they're doing a lot of that on their own, and then they're inferring and drawing those conclusions, and you might ask them, what can you infer from this passage, and literally ask that kind of question. Am I making sense?
It is. That's good. Okay. Thank you for the clarity.
And then they kind of know what inferring kind of questions are, that themes are inferenced. What might this character be thinking? Those kinds of questions.
Hey, Erin.
I have an idea for some wording on this. So cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of both explicit and inferred meanings, comma, using a variety of culturally diverse texts, including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. Trying to make it a little more clear that the point is that they're citing evidence, but it has to both be explicit and inferred.
Like that, it's much cleaner.
Christy?
Can I don't know if you want including diverse texts or using a variety of culturally diverse texts. I am good either way.
Go ahead, Christy.
I was just going to say, I agree. And I do feel a bit like in the inferred meanings is sort of, articulating what is left unsaid too. That's part of that inference. I agree. So I think this is cleaner.
Okay, Claire, you want to read that for them? And
cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of both explicit and inferred meanings, including diverse texts, culturally diverse texts, and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, any disagreement with those modifications? Okay, so let's see here. We've got quite a chunk to look at here in this one. So any disagreement with how B currently is proposed? I
Sorry,
see Crystal.
yeah, I'm not opposed to it, but it does go it's different than what we've done for 4A and all the other ones. And the other ones we've previously been saying, including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples. And then in 11 and 12, we're including culturally diverse texts. I'm not opposed to it. It's just different than K10.
Okay, so you're looking at A there. And
yeah, discussion
proposing
around,
to
is
use
it
the same.
intentional that it's different here?
Okay. Let's see, Marie was working on that. And Christy was working on that. Aaron was working on that. Further discussion on Crystal's comments? Marie?
If I recall, that was intentional for K10, so I would say be consistent and not have culturally diverse. I'll make that a proposal, but I'm fine if others want to go a different way.
So Claire, what do you have what you need from them?
Yeah. Cite
Okay.
strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of both explicit and inferred meanings, including texts by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Crystal and Marie? Is that reading how you intended? Justine?
Sorry, I might be blowing this up. We've used strong in previous grade levels as well. Do we have a determination of what strong and thorough textual evidence, like that feels pretty arbitrary. Do we need that? Can I propose to maybe remove it?
Okay, you can definitely propose it. Crystal, is this on a comment on the same?
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I first looked at the standard, and then I went and looked at the Common Core standard that aligned with it, and that's what the wording is for that. So that sort of made me feel like that was maybe why the committee continued to use those words.
My hand's still up. I'm going to make one more comment. Sorry.
Yeah, and then if you have a proposal, it's okay to look and let the committee look at what that is.
Okay, I do want to propose it just to look at it. And if it's not something we agree with, I would my secondary proposal, I'm going to layer this out, right? Would be to add in our guidance documents what exactly strong and thorough textual evidence includes.
Okay, so go ahead and give the proposal.
So without that, it's cite textual evidence to support analysis of both explicit and inferred meanings, including texts by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, committee discussion around that modification? Is there any disagreement with that modification? Okay, Justine, you can layer that secondary plan out of your pocket and use it for something else. Looks like that's going to work. Oh, Crystal?
If we adopt it here, we should adopt it for 9 and 10 as well then.
Okay. Amy, can you take us there? Is there any disagreement with adopting that for 9 and 10 as well? Okay, they're going to put that language in there then.
Did I make the other changes? What the
For 9 and 10?
Yeah,
Yes. And I think Amy was gonna pop that up so we could see that they're done on 9 and 10, but there's no disagreement with having them.
This is 9 and 10.
Okay.
Diane, I'm going to speak up one more time. I think I want to keep my secondary proposal as well in terms of the
Okay.
guidance documents.
Okay.
That's because if the Common Core standards do state strong and thorough evidence, if people do refer back to them, I think we should have something indicating what evidence, strong, quote unquote, strong evidence should look like in a student.
Okay. And then we do have our glossary work I'll bet we're gonna get to, so. Okay. I have my screen really tiny, so I'm just gonna check with Amy and Claire to make sure that got in the notes.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to read that language for 9 and 10 to just to confirm that it's correct for the committee here?
Cite textual evidence to support analysis of both explicit and inferred meanings, including those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Any disagreement with that modification to 9 and 10? Okay. So we're going to go back to 4, and no one cited any disagreement when I asked about B. So let's move on to C and D. Any disagreement with the proposed language for 4, C and D? I'll let you look at it for a little while because we've been on the other for a minute. Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement for C or D. How about E or F? Any disagreement with the language as proposed to this committee? How about G or H? Any disagreement with the language as proposed to this committee? Christy?
I do have a question, so maybe I'm just starting with a bit of a discussion on G here. I can't remember how I should look back. Analyze an author's point of view or purpose and how style, content, and rhetoric contribute to the text. I kind of feel like we can consolidate this in some way or also hone it in. I first would say, I guess my first suggestion, so I do have a proposal to change include text by and about. I think this one is a place where we could include those because text is the word right before that. So I think that those might fit better here. But I just wonder, if anyone else is sort of looking at all of those commas ahead and thinking if there's a way we can consolidate that just a bit more to make it a little more directed. Maybe that's just a question I have for the committee. Maybe McCall has an answer for me.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Nope, you have something else though okay, I'll come back to you, McCall.
And I'm probably okay with it as I'm reading it here on the screen with that change to those, so.
Okay, let's see what McCall has to. I'm not seeing a lot of excitement around that conversation. So let's go to McCall and see what the next item is.
Thanks, Anne. I was just pointing out that in G and H, one says include text by and about Montana Indigenous people, the other one says including. And I suppose my question would just be to make that consistent with all of the other ones. And then if there's any way that we can just like put an asterisk by this, that someone goes back and looks at all of them to make sure that they're all the same. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, is there any disagreement with that proposal? I think what you're also saying is that if we missed something, we would like those. We have agreed that all of these should read this way. And if then, once it leaves this committee, that those are made consistent by whoever edits this document to ARM rule.
Correct. My rationale is that it doesn't necessarily change the meaning of the sentences. It's just one of those things where if we don't catch it now, then my board members might catch it, and it's something that we don't necessarily need them checking for errors.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to check on the whole thing here. I want to look through section 4, A through H. Any disagreement, Crystal?
I think we still need to update H to include the previous agreed upon language. Where
Please excuse the word.
Have sorry, including culturally diverse texts and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
And then the correction that McCall called for, I'm assuming that that happened. Is that right, Claire?
Yeah, I caught that when Christy changed those.
Okay. And then you have Crystal's, which is a previous agreement, so we don't need to check for any disagreement on those. Okay, so it looks like we're ready to move to section 5, writing standards for 11th and 12th grade. And that looks like A through E. Okay, does anyone need a little more time? Okay, so this is section 5. Let's start with A and B. Any disagreement with the proposed language for A or B? Okay, not seeing any disagreement. Let's look at C and D. Any disagreement with the proposed language for C and D? Okay, not seeing any disagreement. Let's look at E. Any disagreement with the proposed language for E? Clifton?
Do we need to make a proposal to change it from like we did in 10 and 9 and 10 to 11 and 12, like she has it right there? Where we changed it from use to develop.
Are you looking at D?
Yes.
Okay, committee discussion or questions or feedback on that?
I guess we just need like a yes, because we decided in the previous section to change it, and we had said we're going to do it to here. We just agree upon to do it in this section.
Okay, so you're proposing that it gets done. What was said should get done.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go ahead and make that proposed change. I think that was Christy that wanted to remember that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
I wrote it in the notes over there that Christy said to change it here too and proposed it. So I just added Clifton, but the language was changed in that second column.
okay, so we've taken care of it then. Okay, so not seeing any disagreement for section 5, A through E. Let's move on to section 6. I'm just curious, do we need a 5-minute bathroom break, or is everyone okay to keep going here? Okay, I don't see anyone asking for a break, so. Okay, very good. So we're in section 6, research and inquiry standards for the 11th and 12th grade, A through C. Christy?
I have a suggestion for C. And what I see as a difference from the 9th and 10th to the 11th and 12th was that they included this, including self-generated questions. So that seems to be sort of a focus that the task force or the writing teams really wanted us to consider in 11th and 12th, having this sort of self-generated question part. So I wonder about if we bring over the language that we crafted for 10 and 11 for C, which is conduct research by analyzing sources for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives. If we bring that over, I wonder if we just, to get to that self-generated question, conduct, and we would call out maybe here, conduct independent research projects to answer a question. No, sorry. Yeah, so I would just put down in 11 and 12 exactly what's in 9 and 10, but I would make conduct independent research projects. By analyzing sources. So I think that we might need to consider adding more in, but I wonder if we just get to that, to the intent of that.
Hey, that was a good way to do that, Amy. And Claire? Okay, do we want to read those off to make sure they've got?
I'm still making the changes reflected in that.
Okay, sounds good. So Crystal is in hold here. I'm going to see what she has to say in case there's committee discussion. But if it gets going too fast and she makes changes, we'll pause, okay? Go ahead, Crystal.
I actually prefer the previous wording because I don't think that, like, they can be doing research projects collaboratively or independently in the first way that it's written. And I think that's important that we're including like we're allowing the collaborative piece to be a part of it versus the way it's written now. I feel like it's limiting it to, we only want independent research happening in 11th and 12th.
Comments from the committee? Christy, I think that was your proposal, so might be important to hear from you.
Yeah, I agree with Crystal. I really like what we crafted for 9 and 10 and would be happy to just keep it continued for 11 and 12 without the word independent in there. I thought we spent a lot of time trying to capture the essence of that. So I would be fine just keeping it the same as 9 and 10.
Okay, would you like to propose that would be a new proposal then?
Yes.
Okay.
So what should the first part read?
Exactly the same as 9 and 10.
Including the stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives, or are we keeping bias and misinformation?
Everything exactly the same as 9 and 10, I think.
Okay, let me know when you're ready, Claire.
Okay, it is the same. Conduct research by analyzing sources for stereotypes, assumptions, and conflicting perspectives, including culturally diverse sources and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, is there any disagreement with that modification for 6C? Marie? And then Crystal.
I do not have a proposal. I did want to bring up that bias was something the task force was really passionate about within this. And by changing this, does it get rid of that? Or is it within the assumptions and conflicting perspectives? Just a point of discussion for us.
Crystal, do you have something to add to this C discussion?
Yeah, so I guess I feel, again, I'm going to go back to, I agree with what Marie said. I mean, I wasn't in the task force, but I like the wording of bias and misinformation. I feel like it's a scaffold when you're trying to help the kids get to, okay, first, we're going to be very specific. We're looking for these things, stereotypes, assumptions. And now we're opening up and saying, we're looking, okay, I want you to research bias and misinformation. I feel like it's a nice scaffold and it feel like, and if Maria says or Marie said it was intentional, I would like to keep that original wording of bias and misinformation.
Okay, so I think that's really, it's a formal proposal. Let's make sure, Amy or Claire, what do you need from Crystal on that one to?
I changed it, so I think I reflected.
Okay.
Her proposal.
I guess I need to scroll down my screen. Sorry about that.
So it reads, conduct research by analyzing sources for bias and misinformation, including culturally diverse sources and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
Okay, any disagreement with that modification? Crystal?
I'm sorry, I feel like I missed it, but can I rehear the rationale behind why we got rid of including self-generated questions?
Crystal, I think that was me. I had tried to I was just trying to concise that and make it independent. And then we sort of got it. So I was just trying to figure out if there's a way we can make that a little bit more concise. But I agree with you. I think that it's an important piece of this 11th and 12th grade standards.
Yeah, and in the Common Core standards, it says, and so in parentheses, it has including self-generated questions. So the full thing says, conduct a short as well as a more sustained research projects to answer a question, parentheses, including self-generated question, close parentheses, or solve a problem.
Crystal, what would you think about conduct self-generated research by analyzing sources for bias and misinformation?
I'm not opposed. Well, I guess I prefer the including. I know we'll have including multiple times, but the reason is I go back to that, like, it opens it up for more than just self-generated.
So we're looking for a proposal that will include that self-generated piece. Is someone on the committee able to help with that?
I think, I really agree with you, Crystal, because I do think that that is just one of a big change here from 9th to 10th or 11th through 12th. So I think we just conduct research using self-generated questions by analyzing sources for bias and information. And that is a proposal. I think I'd like to see how that plays out. Thanks, Claire.
Okay, Erin.
I was gonna propose that it could go after misinformation. It could read including self-generated questions and culturally diverse sources. So it could go, but either way, I think you're still getting to the point.
Okay, well, how about Erin, hold that for just a moment. Let's look at this first proposal, but I don't want to lose you off screen here to bring that back in case it needs modified. Claire, whenever you're ready.
Conduct research using self-generated questions by analyzing sources for bias and misinformation, including culturally diverse sources and those by and about Montana Indigenous peoples.
I don't want to lose Crystal in this. You brought this initial up, so any comments or thoughts around that first proposal? Okay, I'm going to try. Is there any disagreement with the proposed modification that was just read for 6C? Okay, I'm not seeing any disagreement. So 6A, B, and C, is there any disagreement with those modifications or the original proposals to the NRC? Okay, I'm not seeing any further disagreement for section 6, A through C. So let's look at 7. Speaking and listening standards for 11th to 12th grade, and that's A through D. So we'll read those and then begin our discussion. Claire and Amy, I'm just looking at the time and I do want to check with you to see if we have any public comment, or I don't know if I can see people online. So just checking in about making sure we have enough time for public comment.
I don't have any emailed to me.
Okay. And no one is currently online for public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone need a little more time going through section 7? Just raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any requests for more time. So let's look at section 7, A and B. Any disagreement with the proposed language for A or B? Any disagreement with section 7, C or D? Any disagreement with that proposed language? Erin?
I think it was Christy's suggestion to use a variety of partners for A.
Okay. Gonna read that, Claire?
Initiate and engage in a range of collaborative discussions with a variety of partners on topics, texts, and issues, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively.
Okay, any disagreement with that modification? Okay, I'm just going to check one more time. This is 7A through D. Any disagreement with those modifications or proposed language to the NRC? Okay, not seeing any disagreement there. Okay, so you made it out of high school, it looks like. You didn't know how quick that was going to go to make our way, but here we are. So we are getting to that time to wrap up. I'm not sure how much that we can do, but what we have left is the glossary, and then the economic impact statement. So I guess I just want to tap into you in terms of whether you want to get started with those or the process that you want to be using for the glossary, and then the economic impact statement. I don't believe we can get it all done. So just looking to the committee for your thoughts on moving ahead with those. If we start the day tomorrow with the glossary, having some time to, I'm not sure, do we have notes that were brought forward with some of the suggestions, Claire or Amy?
Yeah, I have a document with the words that we wanted to add so far.
Okay, and do they have access to that?
It was emailed, but I was going to share it in the chat once we started working on the glossary as well.
Okay, let's just see what the committee's thoughts are on where we are and the time of day that it is and what we have left to do, and see where we want to, if we want to do a closure and start this tomorrow or just what we want to do. So. McCall.
Yeah, thank you. I would be happy either way, but I would also like the opportunity to look at the glossary. I haven't seen that yet, so I'd love to be able to look at that, how it interacts with the entire rule. One of my things is just making sure that we don't have definitions that don't actually appear in the rule. So I'd love to be able to look at that and have a little bit of time, but I also understand if people would like to charge through and finish today.
Okay. Christy?
I agree with McCall, because I think also part of one of my kind of greater questions, and we've talked a little bit about this, I think, as we were talking about this glossary, of what glossary definitions may really need to be in the rule, kind of like what McCall is saying, like if it shows up there, we should have it here, or what could really be in that guidance document and offer that support. So I think we do need to have some consideration on what words really need to be in here for the rule purposes, and what really could be just as part of the guidance. So that that may take a little bit of perusing on the committee's time now that we've kind of finished everything for us to think about and look at. So I think I'm agreeing with McCall on that.
Okay, and I see Clifton has his hand up. I will add another layer is thinking about how do you want to do your final review from start to finish through the 12th grade, if you want to, do part of that in today, or do we want to do it all in the morning after you've had some time to look through it? Anyway, that's also something for you to be considering. Clifton?
Yes, I was also just curious, are we going to do a review of the guidance documents? Because I had some things I'd like to add as far as the special needs guidance that was discussed prior. So will there be time in the agenda maybe tomorrow to discuss those?
Yes, so in that final review, you're wanting to add some additional recommendations for the guidance documents. Okay.
Correct.
Aaron?
I tend to agree with McCall having time to look over that glossary and make sure it aligns. But I also wondered if we could have the vertical alignment updated and that's how we approach our review tomorrow. Maybe that's one of the documents we can look at just to make sure we're having that cohesion.
I'll let Claire and Amy respond to that.
Yeah, I was planning on doing that after today's session. So it should be done for tomorrow.
Okay, so here's what I'm hearing. I think we need some time to do a review of that glossary. Claire is going to send out that document for the words that she and Amy have picked up on that have already been recommendations to add to the glossary. And we will start then with a review tomorrow, then we'll work on the glossary and then our economic impact statement. So let's just do a quick closure on this. So let's start with Crystal, and how did you feel about the day and any thoughts that will help us as we prepare for tomorrow? So how do you feel about the day, the session today, and any thoughts, parting thoughts for this committee that will help with our work tomorrow? So we'll go Crystal, Barb, Aaron, McCall.
Well, I feel really relieved to be done with K through 12. So great job, committee. That's all.
Okay. Barbara, I'm sorry, I used the, I'm sorry, Barbara.
This is Barbara. I just am impressed with our efficiency. I feel like we got more efficient as we moved, but I also think we had done a nice job in the K-8 of really scaffolding up to these high school expectations so that there wasn't a lot that we needed to change as we moved up. So I just am proud of the work we've done.
I agree. I think that we did so much thoughtful work when we were in person and via Zoom the last time. I actually thought the high school standards would take a little longer, but we did so much work ahead of time that I think that made it a lot more effective and efficient. And this has been a really neat process. I'm thankful that we're all on this together and there's such a variety of expertise. It's been great.
Just a little overwhelmed, I'll say at the beginning, but I think as we went through, it was really clear to me that folks have been really thoughtful about different concepts they're choosing to include and the language that goes along with these standards. And I look at this probably from a little bit different of a lens. And I just was really impressed by all of the work that had been done previously. And I felt like there was a lot less wordsmithing than in some of the rulemaking committees I've participated in the past. So overall, just very impressed.
Hey, Clifton, Christy, JC, and then Janelle.
Well, it's been great watching brilliant minds at work. I'm very impressed with how our state is being able to work through this process, and I'm also excited to see how it gets carried on past this committee. Thank you.
I just want to echo those sentiments. It's been another great work session working with you all. I really appreciate the listening to the comments, responding back, working together. I feel like we're really working as a committee and from a variety of perspectives and really coming together in a really mutual agreement, which is what this is about. So that's just continued to feel great today. So thanks to the committee. And Diane for facilitating that.
My pleasure.
Is it me? Am I the only one left?
Yeah, JC, Janelle, and then we'll have Marie.
Oh, I was going to say, save the best for last. Thank you guys so much. I too was very overwhelmed at first. So thank you everyone for your patience with me. Thank you so much for your kindness and your empathy and your compassion and your expertise, and for being so kind and considerate of Indian Education for All and all your hard work with everything you're doing with ELA, because it's so important. It is the foundation of everything we do in the classroom. And I appreciate everything that you're doing and all the hard work. So thank you so much for coming together. I will be flying home tomorrow, so I will be in and out. But I just appreciate you all so much. So I'll see you a little bit tomorrow, and thank you so much for all your hard work.
I guess I would just reiterate what everyone has said, and thanks for all the hard work. And I think this is supposed to be a usable document, and I think we're getting there. It's not as cumbersome as previous ones, and I think that'll be really helpful for our educators in the state. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the committee, and it's just been a joy. I've been a part of 5 of these, whether I've sat on it or facilitated, and the collaboration, the expertise. It's just wonderful to see how we negotiate these things to come to a consensus. Thank you to my team for their incredible background work on the cleaning up and rewriting and all the things. And then Diane for your continued facilitation. It's just been smooth sailing. So thank you.
Thank you. And then Amy and Claire are going to close out. And then before we leave, if there are any requests that you need to make of this support team to be prepared for tomorrow, they'll be ready to hear those. So Amy and then Claire, if you want to close out with these folks for the day, and then they will add anything they need from you to help them move ahead.
I just want to thank everybody for your time. Honored to be a part of this process, and I'm very proud of the work that you all have done.
Yeah, I agree. It's really cool to see everyone's different perspectives, and so it brings a lot to all of these standards. So I really appreciate that expertise and really close attention and your willingness to repeat things as I type on screens, which has been a little more difficult this time than in person, but it's a great experience and I'm excited about what we've made.
Okay. Any requests for support you need for going into tomorrow, Clifton?
Would it be okay protocol for me to email you some of my recommended guidance that we possibly discuss for tomorrow? Or is that just something that we'll just provide as a recommendation that doesn't require discussion?
Let me ask you a question about that, Clifton. Do these recommendations that you made, do they fit into different sections? Or is it a blanket recommendation? Okay, very broad. Yeah. Let's have you make those. There's not a way to have an email become part of what needs to be a public session that's spoken out loud. So we will want you to make those comments tomorrow as we're doing the review. If they fit in certain sections, say them in the place that that exists. And if not, we'll have you make those broad comments for your recommendations for those. Okay.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So I think I've already made the comments before, and they were added into there as like we'll receive. They'll need guidance on that, but that's going to be a separate document carried. I guess it'd be the specifics of those guidance that falls into those sections that I've already made. So I guess I can talk point to point, maybe with Marie on that, and then we could discuss on how to present that. Does that work?
Clifton, let me, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
For Clifton. As we're going through and kind of doing a last overview of the document tomorrow, those guidance suggestion documents are in a column that we haven't really been seeing because we've been working so close in the standards. But I think what we'll do is make sure that because I do remember you definitely very clearly added in some suggestions, and I know we have had several other ones of this really needs to be, put into guidance documents and really given some support around in guidance documents. So we'll just make sure that those notes are in there, because that's what will go forward to the committee that will work on those guidance documents once the standards are are adopted. But we'll just make sure that tomorrow when we're looking at that document, we check to make sure that they're in those places where I know you've talked about it some, and then making sure that it reflects what you'd like it to say there. I hope that helps.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Claire.
I was also going to say there is a doc that I believe Amy linked in her email to you following our first sessions review that is guidance documents, and it has those comments reflected and sort of organized by categories. So they're in the NRC consensus package with all the tabs, but they're also kind of listed maybe a little more clearly on that document. And I can share that in the chat right now really quick as well.
That would be so helpful.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll review that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, anything else? It's just absolutely an honor to get to be your facilitator, and it is really fun to watch the way you work together. I'm like, gosh, give them something else to solve. I mean, they're on a roll now. So thank you. And thank you for your commitment to being here, because the conversations are much richer when there is a number of different perspectives. So we started out with, 16 people and had some really good discussion on really important stuff. And so I know that this is a lot to add to what you already have going on. And so I'm grateful that you're willing to be here and committed to this process. So we'll see you all in the morning at 8:30. We'll start with a review. Still, I'm assuming no comment from public. I want to just check on that again so that they have that before they leave, just in case, Claire. And then we'll do the glossary and the economic impact statement in our session tomorrow.
I don't have any comments.
Okay, so let's formally close our session then. Thank you very much.